If you've never been to New Zealand, you should probably move it to the top of your bucket list. And hiring a camper van is just one of the many ways to take in all that the land of Kiwis has to offer. But like everything else in travel, there's just as many ways that you can get it wrong. Stick around with us, and we'll show you all the ins and outs and tips and tricks for renting, or as they call it, hiring a camper van here in New Zealand. Why a camper van? Why not just stay in hotels and rent a car to get around? Well, first off, New Zealand is big. It may look tiny on the map, but if you flew a plane overland, it's over 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers tip to tip. That's about the same as a trip from Portland to San Diego or New York City to West Palm Beach, Florida. The next consideration is New Zealand is relatively expensive. Anything not made in the islands faces large costs for importing and taxes. Hotels and restaurants aren't cheap either. You can easily spend $150 to $250 US a night and $35 plus per person per meal. Most of the great sites are not within short distance of the hotels and towns, and the driving back and forth eats up precious hours. Our camper van was equipped with a full kitchen, toilet, shower, queen bed, and dining space. For $652 US, including taxes and insurance fees, we were able to stay in it for 6 nights with a free 7th night we didn't even use. We bought groceries and prepared all but one of our meals for less than $250. For comparison, one night in a hotel with one meal was $194, and a subcompact car from Avis was $500 US a week. New Zealand has a well-established support system for camper vans. There are public free and fee-based campsites and private holiday parks all over the islands. There are a couple of apps you can download that show you where the sites are around you, and they work offline because cell coverage is spotty in New Zealand. We were able to set up camp on the edge of a lake or at the ocean each night and wake up to the most magnificent views, all free of charge. We did splurge and spend $24 one night on a hosted holiday park, mostly because it was pouring rain and we wanted to just soak in the hot pools across the street. I don't think there's any other way I would want to see New Zealand. Even with all of our mistakes, it was a magnificent trip. Where to go? New Zealand is divided up between the North and South Isles. If you have the time, plan on visiting both. If you're limited on time though, try to choose only one. Each island is rich with sights and activities. Trying to cram both islands into a short stay will just force you to leave out too much from each island or rush through so fast you don't get to enjoy any of it. We had 7 days and tried to do both islands, and we really regret it. Which island should you choose? The answer there has to be very subjective. If you're an adventurer and you like thrills and excitement, then the South Island is for you. Queenstown is an adrenaline junkie's mecca. Within a few kilometers, you can skydive, bungee jump, jet boat, and helicopter tour a glacier. But it's also covered in some of the most beautiful nature and scenery on our planet. From aquamarine rivers and waterfalls to glacier-capped mountains to penguin-lined beaches, the South Island will keep you in awe. The North Island, much smaller, hosts about 3/4 of New Zealand's population, and most of that is centered around their largest city, Auckland. The northerly latitude makes the North Island much more temperate in the summer, and thus far better for beachgoers and water sport activities. There's the Bay of Islands, the geothermal wonders of Rotorua, and of course Hobbit Town for all those Lord of the Rings geeks. Our original plan was to fly into Auckland and take a commuter flight to Christchurch in the South Island, rent our camper van there, tour the South Island for 4 days, and then ferry across Cook Strait to the North Island. There we would make our way north along the east coast of Auckland, where we would turn in our camper van and board our flight back home. After making all the necessary reservations, Air New Zealand notified us they had canceled our preferred commuter flight. I had plotted out our entire itinerary on a timeline chart and quickly realized there was no way to see as much as we had aspired, not without spending every waking hour driving. I had to make the hard decision to reverse the trip, cut all the North Island sites out, and rocket run from Auckland to Wellington with a sleepover at Lake Taupo, lose a whole day to the ferry crossing. This enabled us to at least travel the South Island, driving no more than 4 hours each day, and leaving plenty of time for sights, activities, and of course relaxation. This was, after all, supposed to be a vacation. How much did it cost? I won't get into our airfare to New Zealand and home. We were coming from Fiji and headed back to Hawaii. We spent $652 for the camper van. Fuel for the trip totaled $230. The ferry crossing between the islands was $300, and our food bill was $255. We spent one night in a hosted campground, that was $25, and we splurged to visit the hot pools at Franz Josef Glacier, $41 for the both of us. Our last night was spent in a hotel, and it was $195, including a meal and a couple of drinks at the hotel bar. The airfare to get back to Auckland was $63 each, or $126 for the both of us, and we spent $50 on 2 local SIM cards with 6 gigabytes of internet each. All of this added up to $1,860. Not included in that is $160 we spent on some clothing and some souvenirs that we took back home. Well, what did you get for your money? The camper van included 5 days rental with 2 free days, a basic supplies kit including toilet chemicals and tank of propane, linens, and a folding table and 2 camp chairs, and of course final cleaning. Nobody wants to do that. The van we rented was from Apollo, and it was the Euro Tourer model. It was a long wheelbase, high-top diesel Sprinter chassis with a manual transmission. The cockpit was spacious and well equipped. I never felt any fatigue or cramped in the extended drives. Visibility was surprisingly good, the van handled well, and the ride was incredibly smooth. I was actually very impressed with the Sprinter. The cabin had a forward dinette, and both captain's chairs swiveled around to face it. The rear bench seat berths folded down to form one modified queen berth. There was also a small dining table here, but we used it only as an extension for the galley counter. Once we made up the bed, we left it in place till the end of the trip. We were provided with a set of sheets, 2 down comforters, and duvets. Each of us got a bath towel, 1 hand towel, and a washcloth. There was 1 kitchen towel. Our clothes fit nicely into the overhead bins, and we unpacked our cases and stowed them under the bed for the duration. The driver's side rear compartment contained the shore power cord, adapter, and the hoses and hardware for draining and cleaning the holding tanks. Our pre-trip package included the 2 camp chairs and a folding table. The galley is equipped with a hot water sink, 3-burner stove, and a microwave. There's an assortment of pots and pans, utensils, a tea kettle, toaster, and blender, those of which needed a 240-volt shore power. The bathroom was midship and was combined shower, toilet, stall, or what they call a wet bath. There was no sink in the bathroom. We had to clean our teeth and groom in the galley sink. There were blackout curtains for all the windows, and we never felt the lack of privacy. The 2 big bay doors at the rear allowed us to back up to the ocean and lie in bed with them open and have an unobstructed view. The large side sliding door made roadside picnics a breeze. A breeze. See what I did there? We covered both islands, driving 1,993 kilometers, or 1,238 miles. We drove about 4 hours each day. We stopped once a day to refuel. The 1 small bottle of liquid propane gas did last us all week. We cooked most of the meals and made coffee every day. We were conservative about the furnace, but we did run it as needed. On the ferry crossing, we were not allowed to stay in the camper, nor could we get to it while underway. This forced us to buy some snacks in the very overpriced cafe on board. With loading and unloading, the whole thing was over a 5-hour ordeal. We shopped at the major grocery stores and got a week's worth of groceries, wine, beer, and way more sundries than we needed, all for $215. Meat, especially beef and lamb, are cheap on the islands, as are fresh fruits, vegetables, and cheeses. We did splurge on some breakfast at a restaurant at Punakaiki, more as a time saver than anything else, but that ended up costing us $40 just for some pancakes, eggs, and bacon. Each night we found a new and different place to camp in what are called freedom camping sites, or in the US we call it boondocking. These spots are limited to self-contained vehicles or those with a proper toilet and septic system. Small campers and vans without a toilet are relegated to the other sites or the paid holiday parks. All of the spots we found were sparsely populated near some body of water. Some had pit toilets, some had full restrooms. When we arrived at the Franz Josef Glacier, it had been raining most of the afternoon. It was a bit cold and we were a bit weary from rushing around so far. So we thought it best to check into a hosted campsite to recharge in more ways than one. There we had unlimited showers, coin laundry machines, a lounge, a library to relax in, and a full kitchen and outdoor grills to use as we needed. We were able to dump and clean our holding tanks, fill up with fresh water, and charge up all of our batteries. Best of all, on this chilly, rainy evening, we were right across the street from the hot pools. Inside, they have 3 shared pools, each one with different temperatures, and some of the private pools you can hire separately, as well as some massage services. We decided $20 for the shared pools was plenty worth it to finally sit down and relax. We got notified by Air New Zealand that once again they were changing our flight, this time bumping our early morning flight to an even earlier flight. There was now no way we could get back to the airport, get the camper van cleaned out, turned in, checked in, and get over to the terminal, fly back to Auckland, and make our connecting flight. So we decided we had to bite the bullet, turn the camper van in a day early, stay in the airport hotel, which also meant we couldn't cook in the RV, we had to eat at the hotel bar, spend $200 that we didn't have in our budget just because of Air New Zealand. Our only other expense was the SIM cards we bought at the airport when we arrived in Auckland. Wi-Fi coverage is very spotty in New Zealand, and cell coverage is even worse. We were really happy to have the offload ability of the Campermate app so we could have it in our phones with all the data there and not have to rely on a connection to find out where we were going or where we were going to camp that night. How did you choose your campervan? There are several great companies offering campervan rentals in New Zealand. Do your homework. Prices and inclusions can vary amongst the companies, and everything changes with availability and season. We've learned that some of the companies operate as 2 or 3 sub-companies. They do this to disguise their rate differentials with their older units. Their newest campers will be marked under one brand, and then when they're a year or 2 old, they rebrand them under a different name. When they reach the 5-year mark, they switch them over to a clearance brand. Be very wary of that later group. It usually means roadside breakdowns and very worn out, uncomfortable mattresses and seats. We found the 2 to 5-year-old coaches to be a good sweet spot between price and comfort. There are some aggregator sites that seem to broker multiple companies. I found it best to shop these sites, find out what you like about them, and then go to the main hosting site and rent directly from the dealer. This way, you know you're going to get good customer service. They tend not to be as friendly and helpful when you've rented through a third party. What would you do differently? There were a lot of things we could have done differently. There was a lot of things we think we did wrong. There's a lot of things, well, we probably wouldn't change. Do rent a camper van with a full toilet and shower. There's a lot of other camper van companies out there that are basically renting out minivans with nothing more than a mattress stuffed in the back. I compared one of them to ours, Wicked Camper Vans, and it only came up $100 less for the whole week.
Don't stress out about the septic. It's not that big of a deal. In the New Zealand style, they use these cartridges, and even though I made Joe do it, it's really not that big of a deal, so don't worry about that. Do take advantage of all those campsites that have restrooms in them, because you don't want to deal with having to have an empty tank.
Don't plan on driving at night. Most of the roads in New Zealand are single lane, undivided highways, and the bridges are one lane shared, both oncoming and going in the same direction on one side of the bridge, and all the truckers operate at night to avoid all the traffic and tourists. The other thing about it is you will miss way too much of the scenery.
Do plan on getting to your campsite during daylight. So it gets dark very quickly, and you want to make sure that you can see where you're going to be and all of that.
Don't plan on taking the ferry. You'll lose most of a day doing it, and it'll cost you over $300. You won't have access to your coach through the whole ordeal, which means you have to buy snacks and food or at the bar in the ship's galley, which is overpriced and pretty poor quality. That is unless you have more than 10 days to stay, and you can get what's called a relocation rental. Many people rent in Auckland and drop off in Christchurch. This puts an abundance of camper vans in Christchurch that the rental companies need to get back home. They will sometimes give you a reduced rate, if not free rental, just to drive it back. You pay for some expenses and fuel. This was our original idea, and unfortunately, thanks to Air New Zealand, we had to completely reverse the action. If you have more than 10 days, You can see both islands, but there's a clever trick you can use to do it. Rent 2 different camper vans. Rent one in the North Island, tour the North Island, turn it back in, catch a cheap flight over to the South Island, rent it again for the remainder of your trip. We found there was really no penalty for doing this. You could turn one in and rent another one in just a few hours, and you saved all of the fees and all the time of coming across the ferry. Don't depend on the ferries or the airlines to be on time. If you've got your schedule down to a few hours or even a half a day, you could be greatly disappointed. All in all, we made it happen, but there were some very white-knuckle moments.
Don't stay at holiday parks. They're overpriced, and the Freedom campsites are really awesome. They're simple, they're basic, and they're adventurous.
Do bring extra cables, splitters, and chargers for all your toys. The camper may only have one round 12-volt outlet, and that only charges while you're driving. I brought along a 3-way splitter for that 12-volt outlet, a 6-gang charger for USB devices, and an inverter to charge the laptop. Take every opportunity you have while driving to get everything topped up.
Do get a SIM card with like about 4 gigabytes of data. So internet is really spotty, so you want to make sure that your Google Maps is loaded up, all of your movies or your Kindle books, they're all loaded up.
Don't buy too many groceries the first day. The refrigerators are small, there's not much cupboard space, and there's ample opportunity along the road to get fresh produce and other fare. We bought everything we thought we needed the very first day. As it turned out, we ended up not using a lot of that. And some of that we just had to give away or throw away before we flew back to Auckland.
Do buy wines, meats, and cheeses. The local fare is awesome. Also, don't forget to bring your bag, your reusable bags, because you do need them in the grocery stores there.
Do plan on simple meals that can be cooked in one pot, on the frying pan, and without an oven. We had a microwave, but that required shore power that we didn't have at the rural campsites. If possible, get a disposable grill at the grocery store with charcoal already included, or check with your campervan company. Some of them will rent you grills that hook up to the van's propane system, and then you've got lots of luxury.
Don't bring any hard-sided luggage, no carbonite type luggage, because you're going to need to stuff some of that things in little cubby holes in the campervan.
Plan and pack for varying temperatures, and it rains in New Zealand all the time.
Do have a backpack full of all of your valuables, something small but sturdy that you could just carry with you wherever you go, even if you leave the camper van just to check out the local ducks.
Some other things we found helpful. Many campers, like us, ended up with a lot of stuff left over, especially sundries, things like aluminum foil and Ziploc baggies and trash bags. They leave these behind and or turn them in at the rental car company at the end of their trip. Ask about the goodie table. The rental car companies won't always volunteer this information, but you can go over there and shop for free and take a big bite out of your budget. Nobody needs a whole roll of aluminum foil.
Do buy paper towels, lots of them. You're going to need them. There's not a lot of counter space, so sometimes things like wine might tip over and you're going to need them. There's only a couple dish towels available, and to deal with drying them out and washing them is a pain. So just get the paper towels.
Do check all the cabinet and appliance doors before driving off, every time. One bad pothole and you could end up losing a whole meal out of the cupboard.
Do remove the smoke detector before cooking. It will pretty much go off every single time you use the stove.
Especially if I'm cooking.
Oh.
And most importantly, come during the off season. May was the time we went, and it was absolutely beautiful. Temperate weather, no crowds, and everything was discounted appropriately. If you come during peak season, rentals will be more expensive, parking spaces and campsites will be at a premium, you're going to be facing crowds, and the highways will be clogged. If you're into photography or you want to see the sights, standing 5 deep behind 6 rows of tripods is no fun. We watched a lot of videos in preparation for this trip. Some of the most informative and best came from Tim and Finn in their trip series. but most of all, Kate and Nara as they attempt to do 100 countries before 2020. We hope these tips were useful to you, and we hope that they'll help you make the best of your New Zealand trip. If you haven't already seen them, check out our other videos in the series on New Zealand. They'll be linked at the end of this video. If you have any questions for us, or you have anything that you know from New Zealand that might be useful for our other viewers, please let us know in the comment section below. We like to reply to everybody. We'd also like to ask you to smash that like button. And if you haven't already done it, subscribe to our channel. Hit that little bell notification so you're made aware when we're ready to upload another video. Until then, kia ora. Hello, Kara.
Hi, Nate.
This video's for you. You guys influenced us so much. You were mentors in us taking this New Zealand road trip. We got the camper van thanks to you. We've done everything thanks to you. We're seeing the sights thanks to you. So we thought we had to pay a little tribute and do the Tim Tam Slam. You ready? You must read the whole thing. Oh. It's melting. Thank you, Nate and Kara.